But I'll start with a little reading that I think will supplement what I'm about to say regarding the intentions of this book. This is page 106. Hugh Forbes was the only one she talked freely to, but only when they were alone. And even then Hugh did the larger share of the talking, mostly about himself and his pursuits and ideals. It would seem as if she were keen to understand his manner of life and his outlook, and he, in turn, seemed anxious that she should fully understand. At the end of 3 weeks, she must have had a clear mind picture of Glunagrianan and the folk that lived therein, and the things they did not do. Oh, Glunagrianan, that widest, sunniest trough of all the valleys raying out from the 4 churches, green with short grass, grey with limestone, alive with the sound of birds singing and water cascading down the wide aprons. Serene hollow below the high hills of heather, where sheep were dotted like pale brown stones, with low white houses strung along a winding grey road, the little town at the mouth of the glen, and Hugh's school nearby, and beyond, the sea lifting to the horizon. Strange that you are a teacher, Hugh, mused Caroline Grant. In the old days you would have led a clan. 'Tis what I am making, a clan to lead, ma'am, he told her quaintly. A clan to lead, Hugh? Surely, ma'am. A few of us have a notion that Ireland is in a bad way, with wrong ideas out the mouth of prosperity mongers, and the only remedy, as we see it, is to get hold of the young. And what do you teach them, Hugh? First, the things I have to, and after, it would be hard to tell you, and maybe I am not too sure myself, but in sanguine moments, on a sunny morning, or late at night over a drink with a friend, I do be boasting that any boy who stays with me to the age of 18 will never be content in a city, and some of them will never be content at Glunagrianan. Is that good for them? Good. Will it make them any happier? No, ma'am. All we seek is to make them think, and thinking pierces to the bone. 'Tis how I, and better men, are making our clan, gathering and scattering, and holding it too. And in good time it could be that clan will arise and drive the huckster and the shopkeeper out of Ireland. But are we not the shopkeepers, Hugh? Dublin is full of them too, dear lady. Dublin of the intelligentsia, the very place. You here in your Innismore could name 10 Dublin men of note that most of the Dublin people never heard of. The man that counts most in Dublin is a bright boy who has the trick of making 2 or 10,000 a year on the Christian principle of grinding the faces of the poor. Goes to his duty or his lodge regularly, and hasn't the time or inclination to read a book. Are you not too hard on them? I'll be harder yet, with the help of God, said the real Hugh Forbes in his deepest voice. A great excerpt of the book. I find it a very, very profound excerpt when I read it. Maurice Walsh's writing continues to be quite an inspirational force in my life. We're talking about early anti-capitalism rhetoric and the insistence of the romantic and the relationship with the landscape as a principal way of being, and I'll get back to that in a second. Because first I want to mention that Hugh Forbes, his character, he is an IRA veteran. Specifically, he was a combatant in the Irish Civil War. Now a civilian, looking to make his home in the Scottish Highlands. And he's a very chivalrous character. He's noble, he's intelligent, he's thoughtful. And although we know that he was a member of the IRA, it's not expressly part of his character in the novel. Although we might intuitively understand Maurice Walsh's his own belief of the standards of IRA soldiering by the humanity that he gives one of these veterans in Hugh Forbes. What's more is there is a confrontation in the book concerning a lady, Frances Mary. The romance of the book falls not just in the landscape but in the characters who have this bit of a triangle going on. And we've got the gritty, grounded Hugh Forbes, the Irishman, on one side, the small, dark man. On the other, we have Vivian Stark, the tall, as the book describes him at one point, blonde beast. He's an Englishman. He's spoilt, he's quite bratty, he's entitled, he's a handsome brute of a man who feels like he deserves the world and is entitled to all of the women that he might fancy. When Hugh Forbes interrupts that notion, Vivian Stark basically collapses into violence. And it's these confrontations between these two characters that we might read intuitively as a sort of metaphor for the conflict in the Irish Civil War. This blonde beast of an Englishman whose entitlement is no match, really, for the ways of the world in their true senses. And unfortunately, his power stumbles into violence. And notably, Hugh Forbes is not one to announce his intent for violence, but he is one to stand on his business when it arrives at his doorstep. What more could you say about the IRA's intentions in that regard? We don't want to fight, but we will fight if you make us. That's quite an Irish sentiment. Basically, the two of these men, they come to blows on the Scottish hillside here, as depicted in the front cover of the book, with Hugh Forbes standing over the blonde beast. Although in the actual literature, the two of them knock lumps into each other. Neither yield. Neither of them are victors. And so the violence is in itself a vacuum, a point of pointlessness. And the two walk away from each other injured, none the happier. Although Hugh Forbes wins the lady. And I think that's precisely because of his attitude, his chivalry, his nobility that he shows throughout the novel. And I think can be read as not perhaps a one-for-one, because the book is not that expressly political, but Maurice Walsh is certainly insisting that I think that the IRA's intentions in the Civil War and the members of the of the armies who fought on the Irish side were no mere blind terrorists, but they were of a noble stock of people, a noble breed of people who win, in the end, the romance. And it's the romance of the book, which is the second section that I want to talk about. The romance is an incredibly potent force in the relationship between Hugh Forbes and the landscape. And it's his philosophy, what I just read in that page 106, chapter 10, part 6 of chapter 10. Hugh Forbes, his philosophy, his romantic philosophy, is one that is deeply important to in a way of structuring society, of leading the young. And it's one that is exhibited in his actual lifestyle as well, in his more guerrilla abilities, his way of understanding the landscape, the flora, the fauna, what's what, how to describe a certain thing in a certain detailed way, an investigative way of looking at landscape, one that we realise can sustain us as long as we play our part in its recognition. I am really fascinated by this way of looking at the world, and Maurice Walsh has done very well in reminding me that romanticism is not just a literary technique, although of course it is, but it is actually a philosophy and a way of designing your mind. It's a way of designing your thought, and it's incredibly important in how we structure, how we want to live as a people, as a collective people. And it makes you wonder, all of the romantics, well, where are they? They're in the rural landscapes. That's where romanticism is found. Can romanticism be applied to an urban setting, to a city? Maurice Walsh said in that wee excerpt, nobody with his way of thinking would be content in a city. Is it possible? I don't think so. I think our sense of true, important, philosophical living is one in green spaces. Can it be translated into stone? I'm not sure it can. And that just underlines the importance of creating green spaces within our cities if we do insist on living in cities, as many of us do, perhaps not by choice but by subtle manipulation. It's a great book. It's a great wee book, Maurice Walsh. It's unfortunate that the romance between Hugh Forbes and Frances Mary I didn't find totally convincing. That's a shame. But as ever with Maurice Walsh's writing, the prose blows me away. It's such beautiful prose. And the more I read, the more I try and use his way of writing actually in my own thought when I'm walking around. It's a kind of noble thought, a way of thinking. The nobility which he exercises in his attitude towards women, his attitude towards nature, is one that is available to everybody. It's just about being attentive, being switched on, and involving yourself in your own care for what's going on around you. If you're carefully investigating the world, it will reveal to you fantastic beauties and a sense of truthfulness. And that is what the romanticism of this small dark man captures successfully. I want to go on, but my camera's about to die. So I'm just going to end it here. And I'm going to give it 7 roses out of 10 roses. On to the next one.